19-year-old lefty Alex Eala from the Philippines could be the next big thing in pro tennis.
This is the goal
My
to
goal
do.
is to be able to integrate myself into the WTA circuit more and to be able to handle myself better on the court.
Bolted into the spotlight last month after making the semifinals at one of the biggest pro tennis tournaments in the world, the Miami Open. She's been featured in Vogue Philippines, is repped by IMG, one of the biggest sports agencies on the planet, has ties to Rafael Nadal, and has over 350,000 followers on Instagram.
This week, Alex Eala walked into Indian Wells seeded number 32, the highest any Filipino has ever entered a WTA 1000 event in history. Fans packed the practice courts just to watch her warm up, the Eala effect, they're calling it. 10 days before that, she stood inside Nike's world headquarters in Oregon, her portrait mounted on the same tunnel that holds the greatest athletes Nike has ever backed. She covered her face with both hands and couldn't speak. And somewhere between that moment and right now, a title started circulating online. Alex Eala's. Coach breaks his silence over her secret. $45 million Nike deal that changes everything. Her coach, Joan Bosch, the man who has watched her grow from a teenage wildcard at the Rafa Nadal Academy to a genuine WTA top 30 threat, has apparently been sitting on something. And now, according to what's spreading across social media, he's finally talking. Before you hit share, though, there's a version of this story that the clickbait posts buried. A version where the real numbers, the actual deal structure, and what Bosch genuinely said about her Nike relationship are far more interesting than any $45 million figure. If you want the version the algorithm doesn't push, subscribe. We cover what actually happened, not what gets the most shares. Because the truth here doesn't need inflation. It just needs someone willing to dig it out. So let's start with the claim itself, because understanding why it spread so far is actually the key to understanding the real story underneath it. Starting in September 2025, posts began circulating across Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, claiming Alex Eala had accepted a $45 million endorsement deal from a major international sports brand. The brand changed version to version, Wilson in the earliest posts, Nike in the ones making the rounds more recently. The caption included a fabricated quote attributed directly to Eala, painting her as someone who planned to donate the money because ordinary Filipinos needed it more. Patriotic, generous, emotionally calibrated to go viral. It worked. One Facebook post alone pulled in over 103,000 likes and more than 6,700 comments before fact-checkers caught up to it. Both Verifiles and Rappler investigated independently. Their findings were unambiguous. No official statement from Eala, no announcement from any brand, zero coverage from a credible news organization. The quote attributed to her was entirely fabricated. The photos used in the posts were pulled from unrelated sources. And the pages publishing these stories were built specifically to manufacture engagement, not report news. The $45 million figure invented the secret deal, a construction, the coach breaking his silence? There was no silence to break because the deal being described never existed. Here's where this gets genuinely interesting, because Joan Bosch has spoken publicly about Eala on multiple occasions. He hasn't been silent at all. What he said is just far more considered than any viral caption could capture. Speaking to Punto de Break at the 2025 Madrid Open, Bosch was direct about how he views the Eala project. At the Academy, we're clear that this is a special project because it's also borne the hallmark of the Rafa Nadal Academy, ever since she arrived at the age of 12. He went further. I trusted Alex from the beginning. She's a very intelligent person, very coachable. He also acknowledged the surprise of how fast things accelerated. For me, it was a surprise to achieve what we achieved in Miami. I always knew she could be in the top 100, but it all happened very quickly. That's not a coach sitting on information. That's a coach watching something unfold faster than even he anticipated. And being honest about it, Bosch came into Eala's orbit through the Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor, where she arrived as a 12-year-old from Quezon City in 2018. His background is substantial. He coached as former world number 1 Carlos Moya through Spain's 2004 Davis Cup campaign and multiple ATP titles. When Tony Nadal first flagged Eala as someone worth watching, Bosch listened. What he observed over the years that followed convinced him this wasn't a standard development case. It was something different. The Nike relationship didn't need Bosch to dramatize it. It was already built into the foundation of everything Eala had become. Eala has been a Nike athlete since 2019, when she was 14 years old and still training at the academy in Spain. Nike didn't wait for her to break into the top 100. They didn't wait for a viral Miami moment. They identified her years before the tennis world at large paid attention, and they built something with her that goes well beyond putting a logo on a shirt. The clearest evidence of what that relationship actually looks like came at Wimbledon in July 2025. Eala's debut at the tournament she has publicly called her favorite Grand Slam, Nike, presented her with a custom white hair tie shaped like a sampaguita blossom, the national flower of the Philippines. It wasn't for sale, it was made specifically for her, packaged in a minimalist white box with a handwritten message. Every dream begins as a seed. Nike confirmed the item was a one-off gift, not a commercial product. Eala posted about it on Instagram, writing, "The sampaguita, the flower of my country, a reminder of where I come from, and everything that brought me here." Nike women responded publicly, "The bloom has just begun." A month later, in August 2025, Nike released a limited edition shirt in Eala's honor, designed by Filipino artist Georgina Camus, featuring the sampaguita overlaid on Wimbledon's grass courts, a Filipino national symbol placed on the most English lawn in world tennis. A deliberate, culturally specific statement from a global brand. That context matters when you try to understand what happened on February 27, 2026. Before flying to California for Indian Wells and Miami, Eala stopped at Nike's world headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. Inside the Ambassador Tunnel, the corridor carrying portraits of the greatest athletes Nike has ever represented across every sport, her own portraits were newly mounted on the wall. She stood in front of the largest one, hands pressed against her face, overwhelmed. It was the same image Nike had chosen to frame. Eala's emotional reaction after beating Iga Swiatek at the 2025 Miami Open. The caption on one portrait read, "History in full bloom." Reports from early March 2026 indicate that Eala has renewed her Nike partnership, now operating under the confirmed title of Global Ambassador. No financial terms have been publicly disclosed. That is standard practice for Nike ambassador contracts at this tier. Nike never breaks down the structure or value of deals at this level. Not for Eala, not for any athlete in that tunnel. That confidentiality is the exact gap the viral posts exploited. They called it a secret because no number was announced. The actual secret is that there was no $45 million, only a partnership whose real depth Nike has been showing through cultural gestures, not press releases. Eala entered the 2025 Miami Open ranked number 140 with a career tour-level record of 2 wins and 14 losses. She had never won back-to-back WTA matches before. She was given a wild card by the tournament organizers and was not expected to last more than a round or two. What followed was one of the most extraordinary individual runs in recent WTA history. She defeated Yelena Ostapenko, the 2017 French Open champion, in the second round. She then beat Madison Keys, ranked number 5 and the reigning 2025 Australian Open champion, 6-4, 6-2 in the third round. In the quarterfinals, she defeated Iga Swiatek in a match she had to fight back to close out. 5-time Grand Slam champion, ranked number 2 in the world, 6-2, 7-5. She lost in the semifinals to Jessica Pegula, but the damage to the record books was already done. She became the first Filipino to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, the first Filipino woman to defeat a Grand Slam champion at a tour-level event in the Open era, the first wild card in WTA history to defeat 3 Grand Slam champions in straight sets at a single tournament. And on March 31st, 2025, she entered the top 100 for the first time at number 75, becoming the first Filipino ever to achieve that. She ended 2025 ranked number 50, having also reached her first WTA Tour final at Eastbourne and won her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, another first for Philippine tennis. She made her Grand Slam main draw debut at Roland Garros, debuted at Wimbledon, losing in the first round to defending champion Barbara Krejcikova, wearing Nike's Sampaguita hair tie, and at the US Open became the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam main draw singles match, defeating Denmark's Clara Tauson in the opening round. In 2026, the ascent has continued at a pace that makes even the most inflated clickbait headline feel plausible. Semifinals at Auckland, quarterfinals at Abu Dhabi, quarterfinals at the WTA 1000 Dubai event, where she beat world number 8 Jasmine Paolini before falling to Coco Gauff. On February 23, 2026, she reached world number 31, the highest-ranked Filipino in WTA history, male or female. She arrived at Indian Wells this week, seeded number 32, with practice crowds gathering just to watch her hit before a single match had been played. When fans see a headline about a $45 million Nike deal with her name attached, they don't share it because they're gullible. They share it because it feels proportionate to what they've watched her do. That gap between what she has earned and what the market has formally recognized is exactly the emotional opening these posts exploit. The fake number is plausible because her real story is extraordinary enough to make almost any figure feel justified. What changes? Everything is that Nike, one of the most commercially calculated companies in sports history, looked at a 20-year-old from Quezon City, renewed her global ambassador status, hung her portrait in their headquarters tunnel, and built cultural tributes around her national identity before the broader market had fully caught up to her ranking. That is not a transaction. That is a brand committing to a narrative, betting on where Eala is going, not just where she's been. What also changes everything is what Joan Bosch said plainly and without drama: she is a special project, she is coachable, and the speed of what has happened surprised even the people closest to her. A coach who coached world number 1 Carlos Moya, saying a 20-year-old Filipino is a special project. That sentence carries more weight than any fabricated dollar figure ever could. She's at Indian Wells right now. Miami is next, where she'll be defending the points that made her famous and competing at a tournament where she already owns a kind of legend. The Sunshine Double is where her story turned a corner last year. And with a Nike deal now renewed, a portrait on the wall at Oregon, and a coach who has never stopped believing in the project, the next chapter is already in motion. That's the full story. The one the clickbait posts couldn't tell because it required context, verified facts, and the patience to go past the headline. If this video gave you something real, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach the people who actually care about this sport. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're going to be covering every move Eala makes through Indian Wells, Miami, and the clay season beyond. Drop a comment below with one thing. Where do you think her ranking lands by the end of 2026? We want to know what this community thinks. We'll see you in the next one.